Nice.
Okay.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I'm flying it.
Good.
How about you, Martin? Ah, he's off. What have you focused on, Freddie?
It's physical goals for me. You know, getting as fit as I can be. That's basically what it is. And I've got some recordings to do, so I've been focused on getting that done. And yeah, I'm getting there. It's amazing. The last couple of days, I've been really getting through a lot of stuff, a lot of work. You know, it's
yeah.
which I'm really chuffed about.
Good.
All right, we got people coming in.
Alison, have you achieved what your target is on?
The 2 escrows, not yet. But I did the clapping every day.
Yeah.
Have you?
Well, you and I have been buddies.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it. It was fun.
Been good.
Hi, Jasmine.
Where are you? Are you on vacation?
Little place called Mexico.
Ah, what part?
I am south of where we did the event, like 20 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah. I actually was at the cenote we were at where we were jumping off. I was right next to there yesterday.
The one that, what do you mean we were jumping off?
Well, yeah, some of us were.
Most of you.
Yeah. I see Melissa's on. She's got a new book out.
Yeah, I saw that.
Congrats on publishing that. Gwen's back.
Hi, Jasmine. Doreen.
Hi, Doreen.
Hi, Gwen.
Hi, guys.
Gwen's taking a bit of time out from shoveling snow to be here today.
Me too.
Shoveling snow and ice.
Hi, Barbara. Delane's on. Good. I see Veronica's here too. All right, we'll give it another minute. I think we're gonna have fun today. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm still letting people in, so.
Yeah, while people are still coming in, let's share some wins. My goal was to clean up some of my accounting and move some assets around in my businesses, and I was just like a focused maniac for a couple days, and I really put my books in order, and I'm not quite done yet, but I made a lot of progress. So who else has some wins from Freddie's exercise last week?
Don't all shout at once.
They're humble, Freddie. They don't want to brag about it.
Well, I don't know if you know, but Gwen has been proofreading my book, more than proofreading, because she's adding stuff to it and making it a lot better than it was. Because I'm not that good. I write books but it's she's making it great, and she suggested that I write another chapter for that exquisite art book on medical hypnosis, things that we can do with hypnosis, like chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and dental work and stuff like that. And I just been going ballistic on it, and I've kind of been tearing through it, and it's amazing what you can get done when you just get your head down and just focus and let nothing else put you off. It's amazing how much you can get done.
Yeah. Do a Nike. Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get started here. We'll do a little introduction and get into some exercises. But lately, I've been I know I've talked about this a few times, but I've been doing kind of my hand stuck I don't even want to call it an induction because I did it to someone yesterday, and she was an 18-year-old, and she hadn't really been familiar with what hypnosis is, or how to focus the mind. And so I had her hand stuck to the table, and it took about 2 or 3 minutes, and there was no, she didn't close her eyes, nothing happened there. Hi, Peter, welcome back. And so I've been doing this a lot, because when someone can have the experience of being stuck, even though they're not really stuck, they can take that as a metaphor and look at other places in their life where they feel stuck. And so, the idea with when I do the hand stick thing, which we're going to do later, and you'll get to experience it, the idea is, your hand's not really stuck, but you experience it as if it was stuck. And that's what happens in our life. We imagine we're stuck in different places, and so we create the experience of that, even though we're not really stuck, right? Like, just like that hand's not really stuck, you're not really stuck. I was at a Tony Robbins event years ago, and he was doing an intervention on someone, and this person said, I'm stuck. And he told this brilliant metaphor about them building a dam out west. I don't remember what dam specifically, but he said, as they were building the dam, there were 6 people that fell into the wet concrete and were buried inside of the dam, because there was no way to recover them. And he said, those people are stuck. If you're not buried in cement inside of a dam, you're not stuck. And it was like this perfect kind of reframe and pattern shift, that even if you're experiencing being stuck in some area of your life, we're going to show you today how that happens and how to get out of it. So I'm going to let Freddie start and do some experiential stuff here. And I know all of you are incredible at focusing your mind in a way to have these experiences. So we'll tune in and let Freddie kick us off and talk about how to get unstuck and maybe do some demonstrations here.
Okay. Are you all ready for an experience? Yeah. Okay. What I'd like you all to do then, just follow my instructions, and however you imagine is good enough. Get a sense of what I'm asking you to do, and we'll get into it. Okay. Some of you have probably experienced it before, especially if you're a hypnotherapist. You'll have had this experience before, but I'm going to give it to you again. So what I want you to do is just place your hands out in front of you like this, and clasp your hands together, interlock your fingers, cross your thumbs, and pull your hands up where you can see them. That's right. Look, Nolene's already getting ahead of us. Squeeze your hands together. At the same time, squeeze your hands together, pull your index fingers about 1 inch apart. That's it. And look at the gap between those fingers. And as you look at the gap and you listen to my voice, you're going to feel them starting to pull together like magnets. And in a moment, they will touch. And when they touch, close your eyes. That's right. When they touch, close your eyes. Now think of someone you love, or some people that love you, or something you'd love to achieve. Get a sense of that happening. Feel that love right now. See those faces, see those smiles. And as you feel that love, as you see those faces, every negative, limiting belief that was ever placed on you is stripped from your mind, gone from your mind completely. And as you feel that love, those hands are locking tighter and tighter together. They're super glued, they're bolted together, they're stuck. Imagine they're carved out of a single piece of oak. And when you realize your hands are stuck and there's nothing you can do about that, you can try and pull them apart and find a stick even tighter. I do not want you to pretend, pull even harder, find a stick even tighter. That's right. In a moment, I'm going to count to 3 and your hands will come unstuck, your eyes will open, you'll feel incredible. You'll be ready for Nick's instructions. He's going to hypnotize you. He's going to take away every mental block from your mind. Imagine that's going to happen and there's nothing you can do about it. So get ready. When I count to 3, on 3, your eyes will open. You have a smile on your face. You'll feel incredible because you are incredible. Ready for your next instructions. 1, feeling wonderful. 2, to achieve everything you want from tonight and do it brilliantly. 3, hands coming unstuck, eyes opening, feeling absolutely incredible now. All right, excellent. Now you're in a perfect state for Nicholas to take you through this evening and unblock you. You know, he's going to put it in a bottle later. You better take it home. And any blockage you might have, just unblock with this new de-blocker
It's
he's going
gone.
to invent, right? Look, you know, let's just quickly talk about that, right? When our mind wraps around an idea, whatever that idea is, if we really get into it and focus on it, then our body tends to carry it out. You know, as I was saying a moment ago, I'm writing this book on you know, medical hypnosis. And at the beginning of it, I was talking about, you know, like the voodoo and how people can put a curse on someone and they shake the bones. And in those places where they have so much belief in that magic man or that witch doctor, that they actually can create that within them, and they actually do die. And that's been, you know, documented throughout the years. If our mind is focused strongly on something and imagines it strong enough, our body tends to take it on. You know, we can all do this just quickly. Just once again, think about the people you love. Think about this group we've got together here. Feel into it. Feel into it now. And really feel into that feeling of love. And as you do that, notice you're stuck in your chair and you can't stand up. And when you realize you're stuck in your chair and you can't stand up, I want you to try and stand up and find that you cannot. And again, I don't need to pretend. Try and get out of your chair and find you cannot. Why can't you stand up? Are you hypnotized? Are you in a trance? Why can't you get out of your chair? I'm going to say the word love, and of course you can stand up. Love. Of course you can stand up. You know, once, it's a mad thing really, but we're going to show you how every stuck state you're in has either been suggested to you or self-suggested, to the point where you believe you cannot move. And in that state, there is nothing you can do about it. But Nick's going to show you how we get into that state and how we can get out of it. And it's a very simple thing, and I will explain it as we go through that. But that's what we want for you, to recognize that every stuck state, every limiting belief, every negative thought that's ever held you back was only ever that. It was a thought suggested to you or self-suggested. And now that you know that, Nick's going to show you, and I'm going to teach you later maybe, what we call a trance terminator. And it's a very simple way of changing any stuck state. So now you're primed and ready to absorb everything Nicholas is going to teach you. And so you can free yourself from any limitations. Over to you, Nicholas.
Thanks, Freddie. I appreciate those suggestions. I was saying I'm still coming out of trance, but I might as well just stay there because what a good place to be. All right, so how many of you have studied Milton Erickson? We got a few people here. Okay, so I'm revisiting patterns of Milton Erickson, and one thing that shows up in that book is a process, and I'm going to kind of simplify it. I'm going to dumb it down for myself, really. The process we go through when we take something that is a verb, something that is a process or an event, and we make it a noun, and that's called nominalization. We make that verb a thing. And I'm going to show you I'm going to give you a couple examples here. So today I was surfing, feeling very blessed to be surfing, and I looked at a wave, and we think of a wave as a thing, but a wave isn't really a thing. It's a process. It's something that's moving, right? Even the word wave is a verb. But when I say the word wave, how many of you picture it as like a thing that exists? But it doesn't really, right? Like it's a process. It's a continual flow. You have to freeze it in your mind to picture it as a wave. And so you're taking something that is a verb and you're making it a noun. Even, the word waterfall. Well, it's really a water falling, isn't it? Because it's a process. It's a verb that keeps going. So here's how this applies to our life. If you think about the word trauma, a trauma is really an event. It's something that happened. And what do? We give it a structure and we make it a thing. We make it a noun. But it's not like a noun, like a cup that we can hold in our hand. It's nothing that we can see. It's only because we've taken something that's an event, it happened at a moment in time, and we freeze it into the shape of a noun, and then that noun sticks in our mind. We're like freezing it in time and putting it in our mind. And so you can also think about people who believe they're a victim, right? They had an experience of being victimized. Maybe they had a negative experience where somebody took advantage of them. But instead of saying, oh, I had the experience of being victimized, what do people do? They say, I'm a victim. And they create an identity around it. You can't, like, nobody here can point to a victim. They can't say, like, this is what it looks like. It's not really a thing. It's not really a noun. But when you think about it like a noun, what you're doing is you're freezing it in your mind, and you're freezing your ability to be anything other than that, because now you're making it an identity. Does this make sense to everybody? Is this clear how we do that? And we do this sometimes in positive ways, right? Like when I was starting out in real estate, I had to like create this identity as a real estate investor. Or when you're a hypnotist, right? You have to kind of step into it and imagine that you're a hypnotist and really study and work at it to become that. And then once you realize that that identity you built is really just something that you do, you can then release the identity of it. Like I use hypnosis, but I'm not a hypnotist. I don't really know what a hypnotist is. Hypnosis is a process. It's a verb. And so what we've done a lot of times is we take moments in time and we freeze them and we put them in our mind. So instead of us analyzing a whole process, we're creating this thing that becomes a noun. And this is what Erickson talks about when he talks about nominalizations. And in fact, Erickson uses them to induce trance. He says, imagine the power and the understanding, and understanding is a process, but he's making it a noun to put people in trance. So when we're taking verbs and we make them nouns, it's almost like we go into trance. And then the way to pull people out of trance is to take the nouns and the identities they've created and turn them back into verbs. And so that's what we're going to do here today. But I want to see how this is landing for everyone, if this is a little complex or if you're starting to understand it. Does anyone have any questions? And Freddie, I know this is that's one of your favorite books. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I'm in trance listening to you.
That's right.
You know, the easiest way to explain it is that to say that I'm anxious as opposed to I'm experiencing anxiety. You know, that's when you change a process into an identity. You know, so many people say, you know, I'm a smoker, other than I'm someone who smokes.
Correct.
Right. You know, so once you change that into an identity level, it's very hard to change. You know, I'm a junkie as opposed to I'm somebody who's taken drugs. So that's, you know, that's for me, the easiest way to kind of explain what we're talking about here. And to look at all of those things where we say, I am this or I am that, and change it into what you're about to explain now. And that's the way we get rid of it. But all the time we're holding on to it as an identity, it's almost unshakable. And I think that's what we do as hypnotists, is get them to understand what you're about to explain now.
Well, even in Spanish, there's when they talk about emotions, it's estar, the verb. So I might say estoy cansado. You know, I'm sad, or I'm tired, or I'm sick. But I would say it in the temporary tense, estoy. When I say it, that means I am temporarily. Soy means I am at an identity level. They don't say, you know, soy anxious. I don't know what that word is in Spanish, but they don't say the I am anxious as an identity statement like we do in the United States, right? I am depressed. How many depressed people do you know that have claimed it as an identity? And it's pretty hard to shake. Like, we're all humans. We go through anxiety and depression, but as long as you keep it as a process, it's never permanent. You feel it, you go, oh, this kind of sucks. And then you move through it and you go to the next day, and then joy comes and you get to experience the whole range of emotions, as long as you don't like feel it and make it an identity. So that's but let's do the hand stuck, because this is kind of just fun for me. And if you're a hypnotist, this is a great way to convince people and to show them how powerful their mind is without hypnosis. And so let's have an experiment. I don't know if I've done this with you, and I think in one of the breakthrough broadcasts where I had your hands heavy and sticking on your leg, but this will be a little different. So take your hand and spread your fingers out and find a table nearby or your desk or whatever's around, or put it on, Diana, you can place it on your leg. That's completely fine. I see you. And just feel the weight of that hand resting on that table or desk. And take your gaze and focus your gaze right at the center of your middle finger. And lock your gaze on that spot. And as you do, notice all of the sensations in that hand. You may begin to notice which finger is more relaxed. You may begin to imagine that hand sinking, melting, or sticking to that surface. You may notice the sensation of that hand getting heavier. And imagine there was this cement or glue poured all over it, sticking your hand to that table. And in a moment, you can imagine trying to pretend to lift that hand, noticing that the harder you try to lift it, the heavier it gets. And as you feel that heavy sensation of your hand sticking to the table, imagine trying to lift that hand and notice what happens. Notice the sensation intensify. And which is more stuck, your palm or your fingers? And really attempt to try to lift that hand as you focus your gaze on that finger. Notice the sensation intensify. And as your hand is stuck to that table, your unconscious mind can find all of the places in your life where you're having the experience of being stuck, but you're not actually stuck. And when your unconscious mind is ready to move you through those stuck states and release them completely, only then will you be able to begin to lift that hand. As soon as your unconscious mind recognizes everywhere in your life where you're experiencing being stuck and is ready to release it, your hand can begin to lift and release from the table. Allison, I think I did this to you when we were in Las Vegas, didn't I? And it's kind of a fun experience. So this is great, because even if someone lifts their hand and they say, oh, like they still had an experience where they felt it sticking. And you go, that's great. You lifted your hand to show yourself that you're still in control of your mind. So who had an experience there that they'd like to share? Did anyone feel that? I saw a couple faces that seemed to be lighting up there. Blaine?
Yes, I was getting a bit worried there now, Nick.
You felt it, didn't you? And just in a few moments. And I was going there fully too, because when you do that as a hypnotist, like if you ever do anything like this to a client, you want to go there with them. Like, place your hand down, let them see you trying to lift your hand, because unconsciously they'll start to lock into that. So I was going there with you, and I could feel it. Did anyone have any awarenesses come up about where in their lives they've been having the experience of being stuck? Does anyone want to share that? Because that's where we're going next. We're going to erase those.
Okay, so
Yes. Oh, Caitlin, yeah.
I've been stuck, like not emailing my community at large. Been communicating with clients individually and group clients, but not just not sending out a mass email, not selling. Like, why? And last night I made a decision. Like, I'd been moving myself along, like releasing the stuckness, but really made a significant shift last night. I think it was this call, just the awareness of, what you're going to do. And today I sent out an email accidentally. It was supposed to go to 5 people. It went to 40,000 people. And so it was like me, like freeing myself in the most beautiful way. Like I'm on a call in 2 hours for this large group of people that was totally unexpected. But I I love the exercise, like you're saying, you can just feel it without even, regardless of whether I could lift my hand or not, I can feel that my attention, my imagination is creating the stuckness,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And I love that your unconscious mind completely just accidentally released you from that, because your unconscious mind seems to know best, doesn't it? Isn't that incredible?
It's amazing.
And you know, and I want you to put this in perspective, Caitlin. Do you know how many people on this call would love to have an email list like that? And probably every financial goal that you ever have, you could meet very quickly by just taking advantage of that one asset. And you
Exactly.
probably already know that. And your unconscious
But-
mind may continue to push you towards that. I don't know.
I think the unconscious mind was not ready for what comes with all of that. And apparently now I am.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, excellent.
You know, the thing about our mind is, if you think about most irrational fears, and irrational fears are things that we've not really experienced, but we're afraid of. You know, there's some people are afraid of wasps. They've never been stung by a wasp or a bee, but they have, you know, a terrible phobia about it. Because maybe at some point in their life, maybe one of their parents was stung by a wasp. They saw their parent get stung by a wasp, or their parents were frightened of a wasp. And what happens is that you've not experienced being stung by a wasp, but you can imagine that it's painful. And you imagine it's painful. But if you were asked that child at that time, you know, have you been stung by a wasp? Say, no, I haven't been stung by a wasp. I don't know what it feels like, but I can imagine what it feels like. So the first thing is we imagine it. And then that imagination becomes automatic. I see a wasp and I feel anxious. I still haven't been stung by a wasp, but I see it. My imagination now runs so often that it becomes automatic. I see that, I just feel anxious. And then the next step, which is the final step, is that we forget that we initially imagined it. And when you forget you're imagining something, to your mind and body, it appears to be real. Does that make sense to all of you? You know, you're watching the TV, you know it's a TV, you know it's a film, and you're watching it, but you can jump, or you can get upset, or you can cry. You've kind of suspended your imagination for a moment. You forget you're imagining it. You forget only watching the film, and you get emotionally or physically affected by it. But that's like pretty much every irrational fear we have started like that. It started with our imagination. It becomes automatic. We see a certain thing, or we hear a certain thing, we feel upset and emotional about it, or frightened. And then at some point after that, we forget that we initially imagined it. And at that point, to all intent and purposes, it's real. Does that make sense? And that's what we're talking about here when we get into a stuck state. You know, once Nick's done this process with you, I'll explain what, you know, in street hypnosis we came up with, which was the trance terminator. And I'll explain that to you. You'll see that once you understand that, then every limitation in your life is easy to overcome, because it was only ever your imagination. And once we understand that, like you said, Caitlin, you forgot about it and you did it, you know, and because you didn't think about it, you did something incredible, which if you thought about it too much, you wouldn't have done. But, you know, how much pain has it caused you? None. Think how much longer you put something off. And then when you do it, you think, why didn't I do that a year ago? Why didn't I do that 6 months ago? Because, you know, it was totally painless when you did it. So anyway, I'll hand you back to Nick, but I hope you get that.
All right, let's do an exercise here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a loop here, an unstuck loop. And so what I'm gonna have you do is we're gonna have a perspective looking down on an area of your life where you feel stuck, or it can even be a past event if you want. You're gonna go into the time before the event, and then you're gonna move through the event till it's finished, and then you're gonna loop back around. We're gonna go back and forth all the way through the event. So your unconscious mind realizes it's just a process. So this event that maybe has slowed you down or blocked you, you realize it was just an experience and you can leave it in the past. Or something that you've taken on at an identity level, you're going to experience it from the perspective that it's not you, it's just something that either happened to you or that you do. And that frees you to have perspectives that are outside of it and bigger than it. Everybody good here? I'm sure none of you are probably stuck anywhere in your life, but if you were, for example, maybe you could find those times. We're gonna do this with 3 things. So think about in your life 3 things that you want to get unstuck from. And when you're ready for that, you can just start to get comfortable and relaxed. Get situated for a bit of a mental makeover here. Any questions before we start this? Some of you look like you're working way too hard here. All right, let's get nice and relaxed. Diana, not too deeply just yet. We're going there. Sit back, and you can close your eyes when you're ready. And just place those palms on your legs. Notice your feet on the floor or wherever you have them. And as you inhale, you can focus on the sensation of just melting. And some people experience a feeling of heaviness, or you may experience a feeling of just relaxing now. Imagining those eyes are so relaxed that they just don't want to work. Imagining those eyes just stuck together. And you can imagine trying to open those eyes, and notice the harder you try to open them, the heavier they get. And the heavier they get, the more you relax. And let that feeling of relaxation spread through the rest of your body. Feeling into the space between your fingers and the space between your toes. And find the place in your body where you are the most relaxed. Where is that sensation of peace and calm, warmth, and heaviness the most intense now? And imagine the feeling of that and the color and the energy of that spreading through your entire body, through every muscle, every fiber, every cell, and the space between every atom in your incredible body. And in a moment, I'm going to have you bring your head out of trance. That feeling of heaviness and warmth will intensify in the rest of your body, but your head will come out of trance. Your eyes will open for a moment. You'll be able to move your head, but your entire body will stay deeply in trance. In 3, 2, 1, just your head coming out of trance. Noticing the sensations in the rest of your body intensify. You may open your eyes for a moment and notice that this sensation may be a little odd. And close your eyes now, going all the way down, even deeper. And find that first area of your life that you identified a stuck feeling. Where is one place in your life where you've turned a verb into a noun? And imagine seeing that from high above, from the perspective of your entire life and your entire being. And notice how small and inconsequential that stuck state is. And move down from above to the time right before that stuck state. Right before that stuck state happens, however you represent it. And in a moment, you're going to move through time quickly, experiencing that stuck state and moving right through it all the way to the end and past it. In 3, getting ready to move through that entire process, that entire event, leaving it behind. 2, 1, moving through it, experiencing it without judgment all the way to the other side. And on the other side, noticing how much greater you are and how small that event or that former identity or that thing now seems. And go backwards in time, all the way to the beginning, right before that event or that identity, all the way before it, and forward in time, all the way through it. And notice that each time you do it, it gets a little more blurry. It's just something that you experience. It has nothing to do with your identity or who you are. All the way back in time again. And float above that stuck state and look down on it. And just see it as a process. Notice how small it is, how easy it is to get through and release now that you see it as an experience, temporary, and that the wholeness of your being is so much greater than that. And before we go to the second one, I want you to think of a point in time where you felt momentum. A time where you had incredible momentum. You were executing at a high level. You were moving forward. You were learning. You were growing. Things were happening. And find the feeling of momentum in your body. You took action without hesitation. And remember what it felt like. And intensify that feeling. And take that feeling of momentum with you into that second stuck state. And notice that in that second stuck state, this feeling of momentum intensifies. And move through that stuck state. See that process happening and expiring. See that thing that you turned into a noun or an identity just becoming an experience or a process. And notice how it loses its power over you and that feeling of momentum intensifies. That's right. You may need to shake it off a little bit. And noticing how good it feels. And imagine again that feeling of momentum blasting through what used to be a stuck state. And if any part of that stuck state seems still or frozen in your mind, make sure it's moving and active. And move right through it with all of that momentum now. And once you're sure that you've released that, you've moved through it, you've taken something that was solid and you've turned it back into an experience or a process, you can begin to leave it behind completely and take on a new perspective floating high above what used to be that stuck state. And from this perspective, and from the perspective of your whole being, of all of your capabilities, everything you've ever experienced, notice how small that really is. And how insignificant it is in comparison to your momentum. And finally, I want you to come up with an image or a representation of that third stuck state. And if you don't have one, you can even use one that you've already used. And see that third stuck state. And notice the modalities of it. What does it look like? Is it moving or frozen? Are you associated into it or are you dissociated? And imagine taking all of the color out of that and seeing it moving, but make it even smaller. And notice that in the perspective of all of your skills, all of the people that you love and that love you, everything you've ever experienced, how small and insignificant that really is. And notice that it's just something you experienced. And experiences can't become an identity unless you allow it. So take that experience and turn it back into a verb, something that happened. And change all of the modalities so they're exactly the way you want them. You can add color, subtract color. You can make it brighter or darker, smaller, farther away. And finally, see yourself moving through that state to the other side. Releasing any stuck energy. And do it again. See yourself moving through that all the way to the other side. Notice all of the motion and the movement and the momentum. Notice the feeling, the kinesthetic feeling of momentum moving through what used to be a stuck situation. And you may feel unconscious movements in your body as you release things or move through things. And notice the feeling, the kinesthetic feeling shifts that have already occurred. Knowing that you are pure conscious awareness. And that it's actually impossible for you to be stuck. That's only an experience. And just like that hand was stuck, you know that you can lift it at any time. You can move through any stuck state by just imagining it differently. And as you realize that, you also realize there's no need for you to ever be stuck again. You have the power and the momentum now. And see that momentum carry forward in time to everything that you do. And when you're sure that your future and your present are full of momentum and movement, you can begin to feel into your body, feel into your chair. Inhale momentum and joy through every cell, every muscle, every fiber, becoming more energized, more alive, realizing everything you've let go. It's still part of your experience, part of what made you you, and feel grateful for it and release it. Coming into this moment here, completely present, completely alive, completely joyful. Taking a moment to process all of this and opening your eyes, ready to experience whatever Freddie has next as soon as you're ready. And if you haven't yet, eyes opening, coming all the way back. Feeling great. So I wanted to make sure we covered the modalities, because when we say we're stuck, that really is a stuck image. And so I wanted to move you through that, have that image be moving. You know, we tend to make things much larger, and if we make it smaller and see it moving, it's something that you're able to easily release. And hopefully some of you felt that through the experience, shifting through that. Does anyone want to share? Still shaking it off a little bit? Yes, Nolene.
Turn the sound on.
Nolene,
Sounds-
I've asked you to unmute, yeah.
It surprised me because I went back to all the comments that have been made that to me as a woman of what I can't do and what I shouldn't do and what I'm allowed to do, and the put downs and the gaslighting. And I felt really angry and felt like punching people out. And moving through that is just another story.
It is. It is just a story. That's excellent.
And it's
I
been
saw,
a huge
I saw,
blockage.
yeah, I saw you shaking that out a little bit, and so I did make a comment, especially for you, that if you needed to shake something out, so hopefully that helped. And how are you feeling now?
We'll see for the future.
Good, good. You may realize that that feeling of letting it go just increases, and you get even more momentum as time goes on, but who knows?
Yeah.
All right, who else would like to share? Saw a couple of you looking like you had a pretty intense experience there. Yes, Carmen.
So my stuck area is getting over this dog attack that happened a year ago, and how it's made me afraid to just, walk in my own neighborhood. And I actually kind of zoned out. I mean, I could feel myself. I could hear you, and I was doing, following the instructions and all that. And I moved through it a few times, and I saw it get really tiny, and I don't know, I guess I felt lighter afterwards. I also, when we finished the trance, I thought, I wonder if I need to do that a little more if I still have this fear of, even walking in my own neighborhood. So, yeah, that was my experience. Thank you so much for that, by the way.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And generally, what happens is, and I'll hand this over to Freddie because I want to experience whatever he's going to do with us too. But I think generally what happens is something happens to us, and you probably froze that image in time. And then anytime, you see something similar, you go for a walk, that image just comes up. And when you do this exercise, you just take the color out of it, you make it smaller, you push it farther away. You may imagine that dog as a stuffed animal and, completely release it. And when you change the image of that in trance and you lock it in, it takes its power away. And your unconscious mind knows that fear can be useful and it protects us. And so now it knows how to use that efficiently in the way you want it to, instead of overreacting, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Good. All right, does anyone else want to share before I hand it over to Freddie?
Maria?
Yes, Maria.
Gosh, I wasn't going to share, but when my heart started beating fast, I go, oh, maybe I need to share this. That was really profound because phew, I was crying, obviously, but it was just being stuck in this grief of losing my husband, and tomorrow is the 6th anniversary. So just that the movement that you took us through, Nick, from the event before, after, all that, just flashing through that, and then being kind of I don't know if the word is like looking down or imagining the whole thing, it was, I don't know how the words, it wasn't even surreal. It was like I'm there, but I can see the connections, and also that this is an event which is part of all our lives, whatever the grief, the loss is, whether we lose a dog or a sister or brother or husband, and knowing that this is part of being human, this is part of our connection to our bodies, and I can just like acknowledge it and go through that. I've been working on this for obviously more than today, but today somehow it just kind of coalesced and gelled. And initially, when you began to do this, I just felt my left eye just by itself, the tears were coming. And I noticed in the past few years when there were like certain like emotional events about this event, that event, or things like that, like the left eye would just water, by itself, not the right eye. So this was beautiful. And I guess that my question is, with respect to the last speaker, I guess doing this more than once, going through this process more than once, sounds like it's a necessity for me, at least.
Maybe we do this, we do this call every week, and there's always layers to this stuff, and programming and unprogramming, and you should have access to, I don't know, 50 more of calls just like this with similar exercises. And so, help yourself explore a little and keep showing up, and it'll keep releasing. But I'm glad you had a great experience. I could see it, and it's, one-on-one, it's a little easier to handle when someone has a reaction. As a group, though, it was, it's hard to pinpoint someone that's going through it. But I'm glad that it was a good experience for you.
I think that, what you're saying, Maria, I think what hypnosis does, apart from all the other things, one of the things it does is almost puts you in a place where you can give yourself permission to let go, to put it down. That's not being disrespectful, not forgetting about the person or the love you've had or any of that stuff, but just putting down the grief and say, okay, and in your heart, this what your partner would want you to do. He wouldn't want you to be suffering 6 years on, and just it's the same with pain, not physical and emotional. It's almost like you're given permission to go, okay, this is no longer serving me in the way that I want it to serve me. I can just put it down. And I'm so pleased you've had that experience here today. And, I think it's just the most beautiful thing to know that, because I think it's like that release continues. It's like, it just continues until that point where you realize you're free of that the real pain. And it's, then you're left with the memories, the love, the good times you had together, and gratefulness for having met that person in your life, and hold on to that without the grief. So I'm really pleased for you. I think it's, it's great. And, the same with Carmen, be able to let go of the irrational fear that's attached to that. And that's the joy of hypnosis for me, that in, a meeting like this, you can actually release something and have that kind of healing experience. So I want to thank Nick as well for that. It was a great experience. So yeah.
Well, Freddie, do you want to do a little process to close us out?
Well, only really to describe what we've been talking about, which is how much of this is in our head, and how much of what we're feeling and what we're experiencing and what stops us from doing things are just thoughts and pictures and sounds, and how we put that together in our mind. And by changing what we call the submodalities, that change it from a colored picture to a black and white picture, change it from a movie to a still photograph. If it's close, move it away. Just by changing the submodalities of a feeling or an experience, we can change the feeling we have about that. And we can do that with pretty much everything, because all of our thoughts are made up of all of those things, aren't they? Pictures, without us knowing it. If we're afraid, we're imagining an outcome, and it's probably the worst case scenario. And if we were to ask someone, when you're thinking about that, is it a picture, and is that picture color, or is it black and white? Is it a movie, or is it a still photograph? Is it near or is it far? If there's a sound, is that sound loud or soft? And, you know, is or if we write down the submodalities of that feeling or that thought, when the client tells us, or we say it to ourselves, and then just change it. If it's a color photograph or if it's a color movie, change it into black and white. If it's a movie, make it a still photograph. If it's a still photograph, make it a movie. If it's close up, then move it away. If the sound's loud, make it soft. And by changing the submodalities, we can change the way we feel about something. And because everything is in our head, everything is perspective. When it comes down to it, two people can have experience the same incident, and depending on how they're feeling that day, they'll remember that incident differently because of the emotion they're feeling. But it's the same incident, same things happened, but how that person will experience it is where they're at in their own mind. So, you know, some years ago, I was talking earlier about how we imagine something, then it becomes an automatic imagination, and then we forget we're only imagining it, and then it seems real. You know, Carmen had that experience of a dog attack, and now she's, you know, in that moment, all of her senses were heightened, and you know, we won't be saying it out loud. We say, "I'll never want to experience that again." Everything about that incident be laid down. So now, when she thinks about walking a dog, the thought comes up, "What if?" And with that "what if" comes the picture of another dog attack, you know, and everything that's involved in that dog attack. And I don't know where she lives, but I'm assuming that those things happen very rarely in a life, maybe one time in a lifetime, probably never ever happen again. But that thought and that image is now there with her. Is that right, Carmen?
Yes, that is the only time that's ever happened. I've had dogs come after me, but I've handled it very masterfully, and
Yeah.
this time I did not.
So it's only ever happened to you once, yeah?
That, yes, well, that I wasn't able to get the dog to stop. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so I'm just saying the chance of it happening again are probably pretty minimal, yeah?
yeah, it's pretty minimal.
Okay. I mean, is it a fear you want to be free of?
Oh, it absolutely is a fear I want to be free of. Yes.
Okay, right. Do you want to do this with me then?
Oh, yes, I would love to.
I'm going to
Thank you.
spotlight. I know that Nick has really chipped away at that, so it's loosened it all up. It's going to make it easy for me. It's going to make it easy for you. So, you know, going by what I was saying to you, you know, when that happened, in that moment, and now it's the imagination of it happening again that's really keeping you from doing what you want to do, or it's stopping from being free to walk your dogs the way you want to walk them, or whatever. And so let me explain this to you again. So what I want you to do this with me, Carmen. Once again, we did it earlier. I want you to do it again. Place your hands together like this. Pull them up where you can see them. Squeeze your palms together. And at the same time as squeezing your palms together, I want you to pull your index fingers about 1 inch apart. Okay, and look at the gap between those things. I want you to think about your dogs. Think about the unconditional love that your dogs have for you, that you have for them, and feel that love right now. And as you feel that love and you look at those fingers, they're going to start to pull together like magnets. In a moment, they're going to touch. That's right. It's going to feel great. When they touch, just close your eyes. That's right. And feel into that love right now. Now, see the face of your dogs. Feel that love they feel for you, that beautiful unconditional love we have for our animals. And as you feel that love, notice that your hands are sticking tighter and tighter together. Imagine they're super glued, they're bolted together, they're stuck. Imagine they're carved out of a single piece of oak. And when you realize your hands are stuck and there's nothing you can do about that, I want you to try and pull them apart. Find a stick even tighter. I don't want you to pretend. Pull even harder. Find a stick even tighter now. And as those hands stick tightly together, every negative limiting belief disappears from your mind and body. I'm going to count to 3. Your hands will come unstuck. You'll feel great because you are great. And we're going to move into the next part of this. 1, feeling wonderful. 2, to achieve what you want to achieve from this course tonight. 3, hands coming unstuck, eyes opening. Okay. You know, when you think about that, you know, walking your dogs in your neighborhood, before we sat down today, on a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious was that making you feel? 10 being excruciating, 0 being no kind of fear at all.
I would say about a 7 or an 8.
All right, because in a
Absolutely,
moment,
yeah.
you won't be able to feel that. And you can live your life without that fear, can you not?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, okay. I want you to do this for me again. Put your hand together again. Clasp them together. You know how to do this now. Pull them up. We squeeze them tightly. Pull your index fingers an inch apart. Look at that gap once again. Feel that love for those dogs as they pull together. When they touch this time, your eyes will close. That's right. And feel those hands sticking tighter and tighter now. Imagine there's nothing you can do about that. They're glued, they're bolted together, and they're stuck. And the harder you try and pull them apart, the tighter they're going to stick. And now I'm going to remind you, Carmen, that I only ever asked you to imagine your hands were stuck. And when you want to release those hands, just stop imagining your hands are stuck and see what happens. Just stop imagining your hands are stuck. Right, okay. Right, excellent. Now I'm going to remind you, Carmen, that anxiety and fear you were feeling, you can open your eyes now. I'm going to remind you that anxiety and fear you've been feeling only ever started with your imagination. And I want you to do this for me now. And you can do this with your eyes open. When you're ready to free yourself forever, I want you to just stop imagining that taking your dogs for a walk in a neighborhood is frightening, or it's scary, or it's dangerous. Just stop imagining that. And when you've stopped imagining it, I just want you to nod your head so I know. Just stop imagining that walking your dogs is dangerous or scary. Okay? Right. I want you to do this for me. I want you to try and feel that fear now and find you cannot. On a scale of 1 to 10, where's that fear gone now? Try and feel it and find you cannot. Where's it gone?
I don't know. I don't
You won't feel it.
I don't feel it.
You won't feel it again because it was never real in the first place. And no matter how hard you try now to remember what it felt like, the further away that goes. You know, I don't know, it'll be a minute, 5 minutes from now, maybe 10 years from now, when you suddenly realize you've been thinking about something else entirely. And all of that imagination disappeared right here, right now, replaced by that thing of freedom. Imagine it's happened and there's nothing you can do about that. It's done. Thanks for doing that for us, Carmen. And enjoy
Yeah,
the
thank
freedom.
you.
Enjoy the dog walking. I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to experience it. So thank you
The
so
harder
much.
the harder you try and remember what that old fear felt like, it's done. It's gone.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You know, so what I'm trying to explain to you all here, you know, you saw that with Carmen. It was at a 7. And the moment that she made that decision to stop imagining it, it went. And just think about everything in our life like that, that's holding us back. Imagine, you know, if with Caitlin earlier, when she said she was imagining an outcome when that's what she wasn't doing the email. And whether she forgot to imagine or forgot she was imagining, she hit send and sent it to 40,000 people. And all of a sudden she's done what before, 5 minutes before, was impossible. But nothing had actually changed in the outside world. Nothing had changed in her email list or in her business. All it had changed was she stopped imagining that was not possible or it's dangerous. And I want you to, you know, as we go through the week, you know, you've got your affirmations about what you want to achieve, what, you know, the things you want to do in your life. And I'm hoping you're still running them every morning and doing that and hold on to your accountability partner and, you know, meet up and check in with each other. But think about, if ever a thought goes through your mind, I can't do this or I'm stuck, just remember what you just saw with Carmen and go, what if I just stop imagining that? If I just stop imagining it, see what happens. I believe that that's how easy it is to change our life. I truly do. I believe that's how easy it is to change anything in our life. So I hope that's kind of gels with you and you get a sense of that being possible. You've just seen it. And for me, that's the quickest phobia cure you're ever going to see in that respect. How long it was, 5 minutes maybe, from a fear of a 7 to 0. And you can do that for yourself, and you can do it for your clients. To remember what you just saw. Do this, and the person's stuck. And they are stuck. You know, we've seen it. Nick's been in groups where, 200 people in a room are stuck like this. And there's a lot of put on me because, it's Freddie because he's hypnotized me and I can't put my hands apart. But you do that, you symptom scale the fear or the pain or whatever it might be, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is it? They're going to give you a number, do it again, and then say, I only ever asked you to imagine your hands were stuck. And any time you want to stop imagining it, see what happens. Now I'm going to remind you that fear or that pain or was that block was only ever in your imagination. Anytime you want to, just stop imagining it. And when you stop imagining it, just nod your head, let me know. Now try and feel that fear and pain, find you cannot. And that happens in that space of time. I hope you understand that. I hope you get that. Does it make sense to everybody? Good. I hope you enjoyed this evening. And I'm so pleased for you, Caitlin. So pleased for you, Carmen. And for everyone else that's now unstuck. And for you, Maria. And that, for me, was a beautiful thing that you brought to us today, Maria. So thank you for sharing and thank you for being part of this today. And it was great. Thank you. Thanks, Nick, for doing that for us.
My pleasure. And your assignment for the week is to look at your language and the meaning you make and where you're turning verbs into nouns, and just pay attention to how people nominalize things and how that creates their experience, and turn those nouns and identities back into verbs, and notice how much more free you feel and how much momentum you feel. And anytime you have a kinesthetic, because being stuck is just a kinesthetic feeling. Anytime you feel that, just notice what images you're making and move yourself through those images, because the feeling of stuck is really a frozen representation in your mind. So move through those, take that momentum with you, and have an incredible week.
Yep. All right, take care, everyone. Love to see you all.
Great to see everyone.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Freddie. Happy
Nice to see you,
weekend,
Thanks so
everybody.
much.
Thanks very
See you,
much.
Peter. Bye,
Thank you.
Veronica.
Bye
Bye,
now.
Delane.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Lynn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.